Good afternoon, everyone. I told you last night that I was going to talk about my first match back at IDPA since 2010, I think was the last time. And I did record a video last night, but for some reason I couldn't figure out how to edit it and it just got lost. And so I'm doing it over again, which is probably a good thing anyway because I was so tired last night. My video was like, so, I guess starting over again. So I went to my first IDPA match since like I said, 2010, and it was a really good match. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it or even blog about it, and I might actually still do blog about it, is because this was the first match I've been to since I'd been to the Tactical Defense Institute for Handguns 1 through 3 and for Partner Tactics. And it was also the first time that I had been there since getting my Glock back from Bowie Tactical. David Bowie works as an instructor at the Tactical Defense Institute, and he had allowed me to use one of his Glock 19, modified Glock 19s with almost not exactly the same modifications that I've had on this gun done, but I saw the prudence in getting my firearm modified, and so I left my Glock 19 with him. So yesterday was actually the very first time that I have shot this Glock since it has been back from Bowie Tactical Concepts. So, and I did a video about this Glock and the modifications that he did, and I'll link to that video. But for those of you who did not see that video, and just to kind of as a refresher, some things that he did a very aggressive grip reduction on this 19. So, and of course, because he did the grip reduction, he had to retexture it, and it's kind of hard to see the texturing in this camera. But anyway, so he did a retexturing job. He undercut the trigger guard here, so I can get just a little bit of a higher grip on the firearm and really smooth it out. It's really nice. He put in these magazine well cutouts here. You can see them on both sides. They go all the way through. I also got a trigger guard. The poundage isn't different. It's still, that's still the same, but it's just smoothed up. It doesn't have that kind of spongy, clunky feel to it. And the other thing that was different is the sights. He put Trijicon sights on it, and these are not the HD sights. These are actually just regular Trijicon night sights with paint. They're painted front sight. And that is pretty much it as far as modifications that were done to this Glock. So how did they affect my performance in IDPA? And for those of you who do not know what IDPA is, IDPA stands for the International Defensive Pistol Association, and it's a kind of a competition where just your average citizen can go and shoot things like moving and shooting multiple targets, multiple target acquisition, no shoots, cover concealment, mag changes, tactical reloads, all that kind of stuff you can do in IDPA. So it's a really practical way to use the kind of shooting that you would need to utilize if you were in a self-defense scenario. So I really like IDPA, and I got out of it for a little while and really want to start getting back into it. So now that you know what IDPA is and have seen the modifications of my gun, one of the things that I found to be very interesting regarding how my new kind of introduction to IDPA was a lot of things had changed. A lot of my gun handling has changed. Things like magazine changes and things like that, how I approach cover and concealment, some of my tactics had changed, and I was able to use all of those things in my first IDPA match back. So it was interesting to see. If you watch in some of my old videos, I think I do have a video of the very last time that I actually went to IDPA, and you can see me really hug up on cover, and I'm doing a really poor job of shooting the targets. I'd never really shot around cover before, so I really didn't know what I was doing, but I was able to change that. And so some of the reasons, some of the ways that these modifications really helped me out in IDPA was I did have one malfunction. It was a failure to extract, which ended in a double feed. In the spent casing was just kind of hung up in the chamber, and of course the next round was trying to feed into the chamber, and so I ended up with kind of a double feed. And if you don't get a lot of malfunctions, or you don't do enough shooting to where you end up with a malfunction, you know that when you get that kind of a double feed, there's really nothing you can do to clear it except for drop the magazine, or lock the slide back, drop the magazine, basically rack the slide. You basically have to unload and reload your gun if you get that kind of a jam. But what can happen is if your round is halfway into the chamber, sometimes it can make your magazine really hang up, and it can be hard. I mean, you got to rip that magazine right from the gun. So having these cutouts on either side, being able to push that magazine release and just tear the magazine from the gun, because if you notice a Glock that doesn't have magazine cutouts, I mean, the magazine sits right underneath of there, and it's kind of covered by the grip itself, and there's nothing to really hang on to if you need to just aggressively rip the gun or the magazine from the gun. So having those cutouts there and being able to hit that magazine release and just grab that magazine and rip it from the gun is a huge benefit if you're doing malfunction clearances, especially if your hands are wet or slippery or it's raining or you've got gloves on. Those cutouts really are a great thing. I was able to just tear out that magazine, clear the jam, get a new magazine in there, and keep shooting. And one of the other things as far as the magazine well cutouts is as well, the Tactical Defense Institute, and this is the only place I've ever been that actually teaches this particular method of reloads. When you do magazine reloads, instead of just dropping the magazine free, and here I'm hitting the magazine release and the magazine isn't falling free, a lot of people, what they will do is they'll hit the magazine release, and if the magazine doesn't fall, they're shaking their gun, they're trying to get their magazine to fall out, and it's just not falling out. So what the Tactical Defense Institute teaches is that you hit the magazine release button and you actually pull the magazine from your gun. If the magazine has dropped free before you do the sweep, well, great, you aren't losing anything. But if your magazine has hung up, you grab it, you pull it out, you put a new one in. And that technique alone would have saved at least 3 people some time yesterday. I saw at least 3 people with their guns, shaking their gun, trying to get their magazine to fall free, and it just wasn't happening. So just that one little practice alone of just tearing out the magazine and putting a new magazine in is a really good practice to start incorporating. So that was really good. The other thing I noticed is that these orange front sights are so much easier to acquire than just your standard, your standard 3 sighting system with no different color. I never thought it was really going to be that big of a difference. This is the first gun I've ever had personally that the front sight has been a different color, a completely different color than the rear sight. I've had different color tritium vials in the front, but that's more like a night sight issue than an all the time issue. So having this with the bright orange front sight, it was a huge contrast and very easy to pick up. And in your close quarter situations where you are shooting at a target that, maybe you don't have to get all 3 sights perfectly lined up, you just really basically need to get what's called muzzle on meat, or, the front sight on your target, and you can pretty much be guaranteed to hit it. Having that front sight be so easy to pick up was really nice. So I am a strong advocate of the bright orange or bright green or whatever color you prefer right there. And I am getting a ton of messages today. Jeez. Anyways, so that was a really good thing. The trigger job, it was phenomenal. Being able to just run the gun fast and smooth and not feel like my trigger finger was getting beat to a bloody pulp was were just great. It was just nice to, and that undercut trigger guard, I mean, everyone who knows me knows that I have tiny, tiny, tiny hands. So being able to just get even that much higher on the grip of the gun just felt like I had a little bit more control. The grip reduction was amazing, being able to have it that small, and it was just a really nice feel, a very nice shooting gun. I had the one malfunction. I don't know what that was about, but I did not have any other malfunctions for the rest of the day. The rest of the day, the gun ran just fine, both strong hand, weak hand. It didn't really matter, and we did do both. We did do strong hand, weak hand shooting as well. And then, like I said, the other thing was the cover. Coming up on cover, a lot of people were just coming right up on that cover and hugging the cover and, you know, having to really come around and expose themselves when coming around cover. And the training that I've received that showed me how much better it is to come away from cover and to step away from cover and work your way around and be careful. It was phenomenal, and it was so much, I felt it was so much better. I could engage targets easier. I didn't have to feel like I was exposing myself so much to a potential threat. I did shoot a no-shoot target. It was not an accident because I actually did intend to shoot that particular target. I didn't recognize it as a no-shoot. They put like the smiley face on it, and someone beforehand had said, oh, you know, the smiley face targets are no-shoot targets, and I forgot that. And so I just shot the target, and then I looked at it and went, oh, it's got a smiley face. Oops. So I put a very deliberate and perfect hole right in the center of a no-shoot target. And then I kept going. So I got a few points down for shooting a no-shoot target. But it was my first time out in 3 years. Give me a break. Anyway, I love IDPA for that. I love IDPA for a little bit of added stress. It's not a ton of stress, but it's good to have, you know, the timer and the RO and the audience. It really kind of helps with that stress level a little bit. So being able to have that stress and, you know, work on skills that you normally would not be able to work at on a static range, such as drawing and moving and shooting and multiple targets and cover and concealment and all that kind of stuff. It's just really great. I think people should get out there and go shoot IDPA. If you haven't heard of it, Google it. There's probably a club somewhere close to you that does IDPA, and I would recommend that you go and try it out. If you already shoot IDPA, let me know how you like it. Do you do it regularly? How does your gun factor into how you feel about your performance? If there's any modifications that you would do, and your training, how does your training factor into your competition? And the way I look at IDPA, and I know other people don't, some people see it just as a competition and they just go and have fun with it, and that's fine. I approach IDPA as an opportunity to hone the skills that I'm learning in the classes that I'm taking, the defensive pistol classes taking. I could care less where I rank in the score of things as long as I'm doing things right and I'm doing things and I'm building new skill versus establishing bad habits. So tell me what you think if you go. If you don't go, are you thinking about going? And how does your gun play into your performance in it? And I hope to hear from you.